Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are checking out some more Mattel Jurassic World Dominion figures, and this time we have another round of the pop-ups. Now this round is actually pretty hard to find. This round never actually had shown up in the United States as far as I know. I personally didn't see anyone posting about finding them here. The only place I have seen them actually available outside of eBay is Toyopolis in the UK, and that's where I purchased mine because it definitely seems as though we're not going to get this wave, or at least so far it seems that way, because we here in the United States are actually already on wave 3 with the Ceratosaurus and a different Atrociraptor and stuff, but Wave 2 featured, as you can see here, the Moros Intrepidus. We also have the Therizinosaurus. We've got the Giganotosaurus and Atrociraptor Ghost, and I felt like it was pretty crazy of Mattel to skip over this wave here in the United States because it features a lot of very prominent dinosaurs in Dominion, like figures that you would think we would want to get, like the Giganotosaurus and Therizinosaurus at the very least, as those two are pretty big parts of Dominion. But also, again, the Atrociraptors, and although the Moros obviously isn't that huge of a part, it's still a pretty fun species and definitely a figure that you see shelf warming everywhere here in the United States. But again, we've got some pretty cool looking figures. I'm actually quite the fan of each and every one that I can see so far, so let's pop them out of the box and jump straight to a closer look at them right now. So the only one that we have already taken a look at in the past as far as the sculpt goes is the Atrociraptor, because we've actually had Atrociraptor Tiger, and although this is Wave 2, this was the first time we saw an Atrociraptor enter the line. I was able to get a hold of Wave 3 prior to Wave 2, so we've already reviewed the sculpt of this one. But outside of that, again, the difference would be the coloration for this one, and obviously we have Atrociraptor Ghost this time around, and you can see that the coloration looks pretty good on it. You have that nice kind of light white tone for the majority of the body of the Atrociraptor. You also have some dark browns there around the eye that kind of lead up here into the palate a little ways. And there's also a speckling, which I can definitely see picking up here on the figure. You can really see it's like a grayish speckling throughout. The inside of the mouth sports a nice kind of a dark pinkish tone. We also have some nicely painted teeth with an off-white. And I really do think that the Atrociraptors look very good as far as the sculpt goes. And even though I'm much more partial, like I've said every time when it comes to the reviews of these pop-ups, I'm much more partial to the Snap Squads over the pop-ups. They are starting to wear me in. They're starting to grow on me a little bit more, I think, and I'm beginning to like them. Even though I don't think they'll ever really feel better than the Snap Squads, they're still pretty fun. But as you can see, as we lead back here into the neck, you start to have a mixture of that darker brown as well as a lighter brown that just kind of designs through. We continue to have that speckling throughout the entire figure, and that's really about it coloration-wise. We don't have any alternate tones here for the underside. We don't have any painted nails or anything like that. The mouth does have a nice gloss coat. The eyes also have a nice gloss coat. But that's really, again, about it as far as the differences go for Atrociraptor Ghost over the previously reviewed Tiger. Then we've got ourselves the Moros Intrepidus, and this one looks pretty good as far as the way it looks sculpt-wise compared to the actual Moros that was released by Mattel as far as the Wild Pack version. I feel like they definitely captured the likeness pretty good as far as this one goes. The color scheme of this matches also very nicely to the original Moros that was released. There was also a second version of the Moros released that was a much more screen-accurate type of a coloration compared to what we see on this one, but this one obviously follows the same trend as far as the original coloration of the Moros. And you can see we have a nice orangish tone for the head of our Moros. You can also see there's some really nice looking scale detail as per usual when it comes to a Mattel sculpt. You've got all sorts of varying types of scales. Like you can see a totally different, much larger type of scaling for the lower jaw compared to the scaling you see up here on the top of the head. And you even have almost like scoot-like scales running along the lower jaw right there. But you can see that we have kind of like quill-like feathers leading off of the back of the head on both sides. Again, just like we see on the mainline Mattel figure. Really nice, really vibrant scale detail up here on the top. The head is painted with an orange, and you can also see that we have like a black speckling on this one. We have a green eye with a black pupil, very nicely glossed as per usual. You can also see that we have a light tone, like a nice white for the lower jaw. The teeth are painted with a nice off-white, actually more closer to a white, which is not something you often see on Mattel figures. It's usually more of like an off-white, bordering on a yellow, but it actually looks more white than anything on this Moros. But you can see that the inside of the mouth has that same type of a dark pinkish tone like we saw on the Atrociraptor. The tongue is sculpted pretty nicely in there as well. As you lead back into the body, of course, the arms are held into a nice naturalistic position, I think, for the figure. The arms are always like this on these pop-ups. We don't have those dangling arms like we had on the Snap Squads. You can also see some really nice, very reptilian-like scaling as we move back through the course of the figure. We transition to kind of like a variation of like a greenish tone for the body, and then we transition back to an orange like we have on the head out there on the tail. There is also a lighter tone that follows the lower jaw here down into the underside of our Moros, which looks pretty good. You can see more of those kind of quill-like feathers running along the back of the dinosaur. Obviously, the version in the film is much more feathered than what we see here on the Mattel version, so I would love to see Mattel recreate the Moros in the future with a different sculpt that has much more feathers to it. But as you lead down the course of the leg looks like pretty much every other leg when it comes to these type of pop-ups. You can see some nice muscle definition, the kneecap, really nice looking foot sculpt down there as well. But again, no painted nails or anything like that. Still a pretty fun figure and a really obscure species to have in this line. Of all the dinosaurs in Dominion, the Moros probably would have been one of the last ones I expected to get a figure, especially so quickly since this was Wave 2, but it's still pretty neat to have one. Then we've got ourselves the Therizinosaurus, and although the Therizinosaurus in Dominion does appear to be blind, this one here has yellow eyes, so we can see that. We also have a black pupil. We've got a little bit of red there around the eye, and then outside of that, it's like a very dark bluish tone for the majority of the figure. It does have a fully feathered appearance to it, it seems, which looks really nice. It's cool to have a figure like this that's feathered, because I don't know that we've ever had one before that I can really recall. I could be entirely wrong about that, but for some reason I'm not thinking about any Snap Squads that had feathering like this or anything, so it is pretty cool to see that here on our Therizinosaurus. You can see that we have the beak sculpted out, and it has a very nice glossy coloration to it. Of course, it's the same dark blue that we see on the face, but it's really, really glossy compared to what we see on the rest of the figure. You have kind of like a light green for the lower jaw. The inside of the mouth sports, again, that kind of like darker pinkish tone, same tone that I think we've seen on all of them so far. You also have some really nicely sculpted teeth, and you also have some nice paintwork for those teeth. Again, giving us that kind of snappy style. You've got to get some nice teeth on the inside of the mouth of every dinosaur. And then up here on the top of the head, you can see more of that really nice feathering. You can also see some more of that red coloration running down. But once we lead out into the body and into the tail, you don't see any other alternate coloration at all. It's all basically that kind of dark blue, although the feather detail continues to look really nice as you lead out. You can see some nice tail feathers out here on the tail of the Therizinosaurus, nice curve in the tail as well. And you see those feathers running down into the thigh as we transition to a skin texture for the calf region, and then down into the foot. Nice scoots down the toes. No nail paint, but since the entire body is a dark tone, kind of is okay, I guess, because it sort of looks like it has nail paint. Definitely seems to have a gloss coat for the nails, which is nice to see. You can see the arms and everything held on to the inside of the body here, and you can also see again that we have a alternate tone here for the underside with that green that runs out, similar to what we see on almost all of the other pop-ups like this. So definitely a pretty fun version of the Therizinosaurus, and it's pretty cool to have, again, a Therizinosaurus now in the pop-ups. And then we've got ourselves the Giganotosaurus, and this one actually looks really awesome. So straight away, you can see that we have those kind of crazy and wild-looking teeth that are sort of interlocking, so that when the mouth closes, you can see that that looks really neat. So I do really quite like that. The teeth all actually look pretty cool, too, and they're all painted with that kind of off-white bordering on a yellow. We have a dark tone here for the top of the head, kind of like a it's like a dark greenish gray. It's a very strange color that they have up here, but you can see that we have a nice light green eye with a black pupil, nice glossy look for that as well. And you can also see that we have kind of like an off-white or like a khaki for the lower jaw. There's also some really nice looking scale detail throughout. You can see that kind of almost armored type of a look here with all of those very large ridges running along the top of the Giganotosaurus like you would expect to see. This time we actually have a lighter version of a purple for the inside of the mouth rather than the tones of color we've seen on all of the others, so it is nice to see them switch it up a little bit once in a while. As you lead up here to the top of the head, you see more of those ridges and everything, more really nice scale detail, and then as you move down, you do have that kind of larger ridge-like look as you move through, especially in the back, but it's not quite as obvious as it is on a more mainline Mattel figure, so it's pretty much what you would expect for a figure like this. You also have those scoots running along the back, following the ridge line of the back, and you can see that we have a nice green for the body of the Giga, but you can see that that darker tone kind of stripes and designs down completely overtakes the tip of the tail. Really nice looking scale detail as you lead out there into the body. Again, the leg sculpt is pretty much your standard when it comes to a leg sculpt for these pop-ups. No painted nails, scoots down the toes, nice muscle definition, the kneecap, all of the things that you would expect to see. You can see the arms are held into the body yet again, and you can also see that this lighter tone runs the course of the underside as well. Definitely a fun version of the Giganotosaurus, and at this point now it seems like we've probably got a Giganotosaurus for every single type of toy in the Mattel line, yet I feel like we still haven't had one really good figure, because there's always like something wrong with it. Like the mainline Giga has probably the worst action feature ever, and then you have the Sound Surge version that has like the battery compartment and everything on the side and the sound area on the side. It just doesn't look that great. But, I mean, it is what it is. Eventually, Mattel will hopefully give us a more screen-accurate and a much nicer version of a Giganotosaurus, maybe in the Hammond collection. But at this point, it is still fun to have another version of the Giganotosaurus, this time, again, in the pop-ups. Now, as far as the action feature goes, I'd like to think by now you probably have a pretty good idea as far as how it works. But if not, what you basically do is you want to push it down. It didn't work. It's probably easier to hold it by the tail. It seems like that's always the most effective way. Wow, this one's not working at all. Let's just stand him up entirely and do it. There we go. So once you push him down, you can see that your dinosaur goes to sleep. And I love the fact that the eyes actually close and everything. That is definitely a really cool touch as far as these figures go. And then what you want to do is basically just pop him. And he doesn't work. This one's really hard. All right, we're just going to put him like this. We're going to sit him on his butt, so then it'll probably be a little easier. And he pops his, eyes open, his mouth open. He's wide awake now. He didn't work too well. We'll try the Giga. The Giga immediately works much better, so we'll go ahead and try it again. There we go, even though he fell on his butt. Maybe I'm just not pushing them in the right spot. I've had 3 waves of these guys now, and I haven't quite figured out how the action feature is supposed to work. They always end up on their butt, so I don't know, maybe I'm pushing it in the wrong spot. But the Giga and the Therizinosaurus definitely seem to work the best out of all of them. There we go, that one landed on its feet. But it is nice to see that all of the action features of all 4 of these work, because in my first review of these, my Dilophosaurus, I believe it was, did not work, so it is cool to actually see all of these working correctly. As far as the size goes, I really don't think we need to measure them or anything, as we've already measured them a few times with different reviews, and these are also quite readily available at pretty much any store that sells Jurassic, so you probably already have a pretty good idea of the size, and I don't think I need to measure them for you, but we will give you a size comparison. So there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Dilophosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our pop-ups here. And normally I would try to give you guys a few different size comparisons just to help give you an idea of the size, but this time around, again, I don't really think we need to do that, because it's probably pretty obvious at this point what the size of these figures are. But if not, then hopefully one of these 3 figures here will help you out. So Wave 2 of the pop-ups from Mattel for the Jurassic World Dominion line are definitely fun, and I would actually probably say this is my favorite wave out of all the pop-ups they've released so far, although I was a huge fan actually of the Ceratosaurus and stuff, because I just really wanted the Ceratosaurus. My favorite version of the Atrociraptor so far is definitely Ghost. I really like the appearance of Ghost, so it is awesome to have a Ghost version here in the pop-ups, and it's a pretty fun figure. I would say the Atrociraptors probably look the coolest out of all of the pop-ups I think I've seen so far, potentially, except maybe the Ceratosaurus or the Carnotaurus, but I really love the Atrociraptors from Dominion, so having this version from the pop-ups is pretty cool, and again, it's pretty nicely painted, nice sculpt and everything as far as these stylized type of dinosaur figures go. The Therizinosaurus is pretty cool, although at this point I'm just pretty much aching for Mattel to start giving us that kind of blind type of a look with the white eyes that you see on the version in Dominion. We continue to get the Therizinosaurus here with the eyes and the pupils and all that stuff, but that's not how it's portrayed in Dominion, so I would like to see them start looking a little bit closer to what we see in the film, but, I mean, it is a pop-up. We're not going to get anything close to screen accuracy with one of these goofy figures, so as far as a pop-up version of a Therizinosaurus goes, it's pretty fun, pretty nice paintwork, again, nice sculpt, pretty cool to see one so feathered like this, since we don't really get too many feathered dinosaurs in the pop-ups. But we also have the Moros Intrepidus, which does feature some feathering as well, but just not near as much as you see on the Therizinosaurus. However, the Moros looks pretty cool, and I think it's probably one of the few pop-ups that follow pretty closely to the way that the original Mattel version was as far as the sculpt goes. Like, they really captured the overall likeness, I think, of the original Moros in this one, and again, the same type of paint scheme for this one that we had on the original release. Very nicely sculpted out, and again, a pretty surprising figure to be hitting the pop-ups, especially so quickly with Wave 2, because it didn't really have much screen time in the film, but then again, we kind of jumped around from dinosaur to dinosaur in Dominion, so neither of these dinosaurs probably really had a whole lot of screen time outside of the Giganotosaurus. And speaking of, the Giganotosaurus is actually pretty quite nice, and the sculpt of that one as well is pretty cool. Again, pretty much exactly as you would expect for a pop-up version. Very stylized, very goofy, but still fun. Pretty nice paint apps on that one as well. So as a whole, I'm really quite happy with all 4 of these, and definitely happy to actually have this wave added to my collection thanks to Toyopolis, because unfortunately, it doesn't seem like we're going to be getting this wave here in the United States, and if we are, I don't know what they're waiting for, because they already skipped it and went to Wave 3, and this would be Wave 2, so they probably should have already released this. So if you are interested in picking these up, I will include a link in the description to the listings on Toyopolis where I purchased mine, so make sure you head to those links, grab yourself some of these really cool figures, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.